All right, hello and welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. My name is Beth Reynolds, and I am going to take you through this garden planning workshop. And first, I am so happy that you are watching this because it is my desire that every person would have the knowledge and just be activated into creating a backyard garden for fresh, nutritious food for their family. I remember hearing about victory gardens back in the 20th century. And I personally think that we should bring victory gardens back. There's no reason that all of these new developments near me, all these new neighborhoods, that there should not be a backyard garden in every single backyard. And so I'm on a mission to help teach people how to grow their own food. You know, grocery prices are getting crazy, high, and expensive, and it just takes so much pressure off. Not to mention, it is more nutritious. There are studies proving that food grown in your own backyard is way more nutritious than food that is grown and picked and transported all over the country, all over the world sometimes. And so this is like a revolution. We are teaching people to garden. So I'm so glad you're here. Here's what we are going to do today. By the end of this workshop, this class, you will know how to plan your backyard garden correctly and have a continual harvest for months. These are just a small portion of harvest that I got out of my backyard garden this past summer. You can see squash and zucchini, tomatoes and peppers, beans, onions, raspberries, even some tomatillos there, and ground cherries. It is such a joy to eat food fresh from your garden, and your family will thank you too. So the first question that we get to ask is, what do you want to grow? Here's the great thing is in so many areas around the world, we have multiple seasonal items, multiple seasonal plants that we can grow. Just a very basic definition is cool season versus warm season. What does this mean? Well, it all has to do with the temperature, of course, but specifically, it all has to do with the frost dates. Frost tender vegetables and plants would be those annual plants that will actually die if they experience a frost. So anything below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, these frost tender plants will be done and they will die. Now, frost hardy plants are, you guessed it, those types of plants that can survive some frost, usually down to about 20 degrees. They will be fine. Some plants, I have some winter varieties that will actually do just fine. Even spinach will do just fine down to about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And these are our frost hardy plants, those plants that do so well in our cool season. Now, a cool season defined would be anywhere from about 45 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And then our warmer season would be anything like 65 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, you can have a hot season if you're in a hot area that gets really hot summers. And then, of course, you can have cold seasons if your temperatures are like below freezing the entire winter. That would be a cold season. But in general, our best growing seasons are going to be our cool season and our warm season. And when you're asking yourself, well, what do I want to grow? Make a list of your favorite produce that you buy at the store. Do you like buying broccoli? Do you like buying green beans? Do you buy tomatoes and peppers and lettuce? Well, those are some of the best options to get started with. I will say one of my favorite things and easiest things to grow is lettuce. And the reason why is, first of all, it saves you so much money. I was at the grocery store today and a box of organic greens is $8. You guys, you can either spend $8 every week or you can grow a bed of lettuce for a seed with a seed packet that's like $2. It's a no-brainer, especially when you taste the difference of your backyard lettuce. There's just no going back to the store-bought kind. Okay, let's talk about our seasons. You can see on this calendar, I have our cold winter, cool season, which would be the spring and the fall. I have our warm summer. I could have added in our hot summer because this is a guide for Nashville, Tennessee seasons, and it absolutely gets hot in the middle of the summer. And then you can start to see that it cools down into the fall again, and then we have our cold winter. Now, the most important thing about your season and about your zone or where you live is your frost dates. And these are found very simply. Just type in on the computer frost dates for your zip code and up they pop. Now, the last frost date is the last frost date of winter. You can see it's on the end of winter. April 13th is the last frost date for the area near me, Nashville, Tennessee. And then the first frost date or the first frost date of winter is October 23. Now, are these hard and fast dates that, you'll never get a frost after your last frost date? No, they're based on averages, but it's a pretty good rule of thumb. And today with, our 10-day weather forecast, you can be fairly confident when you look at these. So the next thing that you're going to want to know is to, whoops, when to start your seeds, or if you are doing seedlings, when to start your seedlings. And let me tell you right now, you do not get extra points just for starting all of your seedlings. Some people think that the only way that they can be a gardener is to start all of their garden from seeds, and that is just not true. I still buy certain seedlings at the nursery because I, enjoy doing that. And there's definitely different benefits. I actually go into this in my course, the beginner's guide to or the beginner's guide to raised bed gardening mini course that I created. I actually talk about which types of plants I always buy seeds for and which ones I always plant from seedlings from the nursery. But let's take a look at this. What we're going to do is we're going to create a planting calendar. I wanted to give you real examples so that you can know exactly when to start these. And also, we're going to show you how to transfer this calendar onto your 52-week garden planner that I provide in the mini course. And what this does is this helps you know exactly what you need to do each week and each month for your growing season. And it just takes all the guesswork out. And you can literally knock out these different planting and harvesting things in like 5 minutes a day. It does not take so much extra work to have a garden. Anybody can do it, even busy people. Okay, so we have our blue lake bush beans, and you'll see I circled a couple things on the back of the seed packet. The first thing that I circled is when it says to direct sow. It says after your last frost. Now, this is a clue that these seeds or these beans are frost tender, meaning that these would grow the best in our warm or hot climates because if they are exposed to a frost, they will die. So that's key number one. Second thing is the days till maturity. Now, days till maturity means that from the time that you put the seed in the ground until it produces the very first bean that you can harvest, it'll be between 50 to 65 days. That's really important. So we're going to put this information on our chart. So with our last frost date being April 13th, that means that we're going to sow beans straight into the garden at April 13th, and we'll expect them to start producing harvestable beans by June 2nd. Okay, but look, I have a second sowing of beans. This is the key to having continual harvests all season long. Beans, when you sow them every 2 weeks, will continue to produce. Now, bush beans, they love to produce all of their beans at once, and then they are done. You take the plants out, and you can plant, guess what? More beans in its stead, or if you want to put something else there, you can. But that's why we're going to be planting bush beans every 2 weeks so that you have a continual harvest. You could continue this pattern all the way until frost, and you can have beans from June all the way through October. It's awesome. Let's talk about another thing. we're going to talk about tomatoes because everybody loves a good homegrown backyard tomato, right? Well, on this seed packet, it says start seed indoors 6 weeks prior to your warm weather or your last frost. Well, if we know our last frost is April 13th, then I did the math, and we're going to start these seeds indoors on March 2nd. Now, if you're a beginner and you're like, I am not starting my seeds indoors, that's fine. Go ahead to the garden nursery and pick up your seeds. Just know that we're not going to plant them outdoors until April 13th because yes, they are frost tender. Now, we also know from the seed packet, or if you bought your plant, it should have a little tag on it and it'll tell you the days till harvest. This days till harvest, when you're transplanting plants out, means 70 to 75 days for this tomato after transplant. So after April 13, that would mean that you're going to start seeing beautiful cherry tomatoes around June 20th or around June 22nd. Okay. Now I decided to fill in a couple of my other favorite plants here. I have yellow squash, sweet potatoes, sweet peppers, and you can see in this beautiful garden, it all goes together so wonderfully. Our yellow squash, also frost tender, also excellent to seed directly into the garden. We'll put that in April 13th. We'll sow the seeds in the garden and expect to see harvest around June 12th. You can see June is getting really busy for harvesting. Isn't that great? And we haven't even talked about cool season crops, crops that you could be doing in the spring leading up until June. So, sweet potatoes, those are going to be transplants April 20th when the soil is nice and warm, and we'll start harvesting them in July. And same thing with sweet peppers, they're going to go in, transplant them April 20th, and then you'll start harvesting those in July. And sweet peppers continue to produce over and over and over with the same plants. So you actually don't even have to succession sow the sweet peppers because they will continue to produce just like the tomatoes until your first frost. Now, what I have done here, and you can see on this diagram, is I have planted our first crop of bush beans in one bed on the left, and then the 2 weeks later, the bush beans number two is on the right raised bed. And so we won't plant those until April 27th. And you can see how we're rotating these crops so that you have a continual harvest. When the first group of bush beans are done, we're going to pull those out and you can put another group of bush beans in, or you can put watermelon or whatever you would like to put in that raised bed. So the yellow squash are in the corners of our raised bed. There are these kind of bluish green larger plants in the four corners. We have the tomatoes. These cherry tomatoes are vining and they love to go up these arch trellises. This arch trellis is about 6 feet high, and so you can walk under it. And it is one of the most romantic parts about the garden, in my opinion, is having vines just growing above these arch trellises and being able to walk through the greenery and pick your tomatoes or pick your beans or pick your tromboncino squash. It's just amazing. I love it. And then we have our sweet peppers in the center of the beds. They like to be close, and so that's why these are close. We have our sweet potatoes on the outside of the beds. Those vines will trail nicely down the side of your raised bed. And I've also added a couple orangish flowers. You'll see those are nasturtium. And this is actually getting into a lot of what I talk about in my mini course, which is companion planting and pest control. And nasturtiums are amazing at helping with pest control with our summer plants. And so those are a great addition to have in the garden. Also, sweet potatoes, their vines will cover your raised bed soil, and those will help block out weeds. So really, when you plant densely like this, it's incredible for helping block your weeds and also block and prevent water loss. When you have the surface of your raised beds covered, the soil is covered by lush foliage, that can really help create shade and you don't have to water as much. I also added some basil in next to the bell peppers up here because let's be honest, if you're going to have peppers and tomatoes, you're going to want to have basil to go with it. It's just incredible. So this is just an example planting plan. I have other planting plans in my mini course that I have available. Okay, so I'll go back real quick, from your planting calendar straight into your garden planner. Okay, I've included this 52-week garden planner inside the mini course, and it is lovely. I love using this myself. Here's an example month of April using our planting calendar that we just filled out. We're going to put in on a weekly kind of to-do list so you know exactly what you're going to do in the garden for each week. So this week is April 14th through 20th. You see on Monday, the 14th, we're going to plant out our tomatoes and you're going to sow your bush beans and your squash. Easy peasy. That should take maybe 10 minutes. And then on Sunday, we're going to transplant your sweet potato slips into the garden and transplant your sweet peppers. Super simple, right? And then as you go on, you can make notes about how things are going. You can make notes about things that you need to do still. I love keeping a garden journal. So in the future, the next year and the next season, you can go back and say, oh, yeah, these did really well. I love this crop. I love this variety of squash. Or, man, this one didn't work out so well. I think I'm going to choose something different. Or, our family didn't like that one, so let's do this. And so you can create your own garden notes so that future years you will have such a specific plan that you know exactly what to do. And this part will be a cinch. The planning part will be so simple. Okay. So again, I have the beginner's raised bed gardening mini course. It has a digital book, which is it's 100 pages of fully illustrated, beautiful content that is going to take you all the way from your dream and visualizing and getting exactly what you want on for your the image in your mind for your garden all the way through location and creating raised beds and what to do with them and designing them and filling them to how to plant and when to plant. I'm also talking about low maintenance tips for weeds, for watering, for pests naturally, and companion planting, how to grow and harvest some of my favorite, all-time favorite plant fruits and vegetables. And I also included a bonus chapter on my favorite garden blooms because as if you couldn't tell, I love including flowers in with my herbs and my vegetables. It just adds so much health to the bed that also helps with pollinators and pests, and it is gorgeous. So this is available. There's a big discount right now for the first 50 people that get started with the mini course. And my favorite thing to talk about is we do have a community and you have ongoing Q&A calls bi-monthly with me to help you get started on your raised bed journey. Okay, so takeaways from this Zoom is first of all, find your frost dates, Google the frost dates. Second, determine your seasons. What season are you in right now? What's the next season? What types of plants will fit into those seasons? And then make a list of your favorite plants that you want to grow in your backyard raised bed garden. And finally, create your planner, create your calendar, and transfer it into your 52-week garden planner for ease. So you have a plan, because when you have a plan going into a gardening season, there is no stress. It is just fun and joy. And let me tell you, when you add a garden, if you have small children, this can totally change their life. I know with my children, it changed their life. Before I had started gardens, they were just like any other toddler and really distrusting of anything green. But let me tell you, when they started gardening with me, I would find them pulling carrots straight out of the ground. Sometimes they would rinse them off with a garden hose, sometimes not. And they would start eating them. And they were like, this tastes amazing. Or they would pull snap peas off the vine and start eating them. Or they would eat asparagus spears right out of the ground. They were like, this tastes so different from anything that I've ever gotten from the grocery store. And it just makes me so happy because they are truly seeing the value of how food was intended to be. And so your health is going to improve, your family health will improve. And my dream is that you would find as much joy and peace in the garden as I have found, and that you would learn and grow your food in your backyard raised bed garden. So, with that, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure sharing with you, and I'll see you next time.